Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're joining me today because, wow, we are about to dive into something truly profound. We're going to explore this incredible idea that literally every single outer result we achieve, whether that's in our lives, our careers, or our leadership, is actually born from a very specific inner reality. So let's jump right in, shall we? Let's kick things off with a slightly provocative question. Why does stepping into your full potential often feel like a massive mistake? I mean, seriously, have you ever felt that? You make a big move, you finally decide to step up, and suddenly, bam, every single alarm bell in your head starts ringing. You start seeing blocked paths everywhere. Well, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens. And honestly, I want to validate that feeling of inner dissonance for you right now. It is completely 100% normal when you're trying to grow. Okay, so we need to shatter a super common leadership myth right out of the gate. We usually think leadership is all about the outer climate, right? You know, your strategy, your grand vision, your influence out in the world. But here's the thing. True leadership begins way closer to home. It actually begins with your inner climate. That means your beliefs, your personal capacity, and your emotional regulation. Before you can even think about changing an organization, a team, or even your family, you really have to manage your own inner climate first. Because every outer result, it's always an inner reality first. Now, to really grasp this inner climate, the source material introduces a totally fascinating concept called the money thermostat. And raising this thermostat, it isn't just about wishing for more money or, desperately chasing after opportunities. Not at all. It's really about becoming the kind of person who can comfortably hold, receive, manage, and actually multiply a higher level of value. Basically, it's about expanding your own internal capacity to handle the exact growth you've been asking for. And we aren't just talking about hitting bigger financial goals here. We're talking about physically and emotionally expanding our capacity across the board. It's your capacity to receive, to be visible, to step right into the spotlight, to ask for what you're actually worth, and crucially, it's the capacity to let go of old stories. That last one? Yeah, that usually requires dragging some pretty heavy emotional baggage right to the curb. Because unfortunately, so many of us carry around these hidden beliefs that act like super heavy anchors. We're talking about thoughts like, money makes people selfish, or money is just difficult to earn, or maybe money belongs to other people, or it requires massive sacrifice, or it's just plain scarce. These are old, toxic programming points. And here's the real kicker. Even when we consciously reject these ideas, they often just keep operating right beneath the surface, silently dictating our entire inner climate. So what exactly happens when we decide we're finally ready for more? More impact, more contribution, more abundance? Well, the old self doesn't just quietly pack its bags and disappear. Nope. Instead, we get hit with massive inner dissonance. Your mind gets incredibly noisy. It's honestly almost like a toddler throwing a tantrum because it doesn't want to leave the playground. Your emotions get super unsettled, and all those old fears rise right back up. The old self is actively protesting your growth, creating this massive internal friction. And you know what? This dissonance leads to some highly relatable reactions. We get this sudden urge to just pull into our shells like a turtle. We want to distance ourselves, become totally unavailable, and isolate. We start stepping away from opportunities, avoiding tough conversations, basically postponing any real action. A lot of times people misinterpret this urge to withdraw. They think, oh no, I must be moving away from my future, or I'm making a huge mistake. But in reality, you're just hitting the absolute boundary of your current identity. Which actually brings us to the core thesis of our explainer today. Discomfort is often a sign that something is changing. Just take a second to really absorb that. Seriously, for years we've been taught to believe that discomfort means something is fundamentally wrong, that the system is broken. But we need a major paradigm shift right here, right now. We have to stop viewing discomfort as a flashing warning sign and start seeing it for what it truly is, a definitive sign of growth. Let's break down how this actually builds into a very predictable, mechanical process. Think of an actual physical thermostat in your living room. When the temperature suddenly drops or spikes, the system kicks on and reacts. Not because it's broken, right? But because it's actively trying to adjust. Well, human beings are exactly the same. Step 1, we increase our expectations. Step 2, our internal system heavily protests. Step 3, we enter this messy state of recalibration or confusion. And then finally, step 4, the emergence of a brand new capacity. Now, during that third step, the recalibration phase, things can feel incredibly tough. It can feel like uncertainty, a deep sense of loneliness, or honestly, even grief. Why? Because meaningful growth requires breaking out of your old shell and actually saying goodbye to the old version of yourself. The version that settled, the one that played small and believed mere survival was good enough, the version that accepted being overlooked, undercharged, or constantly waited around for permission. Letting go of that identity, yeah, that is some heavy emotional work. And this brilliantly illustrates the sailor's mindset. Look, as leaders, our job isn't to miraculously eliminate all this inner weather. That's like trying to control the wind. It's literally impossible. Instead, our job is to learn how to steer through those changing conditions. We do this by developing our self-awareness, cultivating deep resilience, and remaining entirely committed to our direction, absolutely regardless of whatever emotional storm happens to be blowing through our minds. This is exactly why inner climate management has to be the absolute first responsibility of leadership. Our internal state creates a very direct ripple effect on everyone around us. Think about it. If we lead from a place of fear, we actively spread fear. If we lead from scarcity, we just create more scarcity. But when we manage that inner climate and lead from clarity and purpose, that's when we create environments where growth becomes entirely possible for everyone else too. So, the million-dollar question: how do we practically make this shift? Well, it starts with the questions we ask ourselves in those really tough moments. Historically, we tend to interrogate ourselves with fear-based questions, like, why am I feeling so uncomfortable right now? Or, why do I just want to withdraw and hide? Or, why is this so incredibly difficult? Notice how these questions just keep us feeling stuck, broken, and hyper-focused on the pain of the discomfort itself. Now, let's completely flip the script. Try replacing those with growth-based questions instead. Ask yourself, what new capacity is trying to emerge here? What part of me is being asked to grow? What larger future is calling me forward? Do you feel the difference there? It's huge. These questions completely shift the paradigm from seeing discomfort as a problem that needs fixing to seeing it as a totally necessary process of becoming something much, much more. So, the most crucial point to take away from all of this is that every meaningful level of growth requires us to walk right through that doorway. We have to master the inner climate before the outer landscape can ever follow. The discomfort isn't the destination at all. It's simply the doorway you have to pass through. True leadership doesn't begin in a fancy boardroom or up on a stage. It begins right inside you, with that quiet, internal decision to finally master yourself. I want to leave you today with this really powerful quote from the text. It says, "The feeling of wanting to distance yourself may not be evidence of failure. The thermostat is adjusting. Stay with the process. The future you seek may already be emerging." Just let that sink in for a second. The next time you feel that overwhelming urge to pull back or isolate yourself, recognize that your thermostat is simply recalibrating. Embrace that inner dissonance. Stay with the process. I mean, what kind of future is waiting to emerge if you just bravely walk through that doorway? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep mastering that inner climate.